Hello and welcome to episode 41 of Downunder The Ring podcast. I am your host, TheWarship, and as always, I'm joined by Phid McAwesome. Today on the show, CM Punk, Drew McIntyre. It's been less than 15 seconds, but boy, oh boy, did that fuck hard. We've got so much to talk about, Phid. How you doing?
Bro, flat out busy. It's probably the craziest week of the year for me, work-wise. It's anyone who knows what I do for a day job, I work in the gaming and entertainment industry, and this is PAX week. We're going into PAX Australia, which is at the end of this week. Then next week I've got South by Southwest, which basically 2 back-to-back weeks of events, and that's off the back of one of the more interesting pay-per-views we've had in a while.
Honestly.
So there was no way I was missing this week's show. To be decided whether there's going to be a show with me next week, but
Yes. Yeah, could be a substitute Betson on the blower.
it could well be.
Like that. Calling in the
Bro,
Betson.
Bad blood.
Mate.
What a pay-per-view. I was going to say
Honestly.
amazing pay-per-view, but it was a roller coaster, bro.
Look, there were definite dips. There were definite dips and peaks and valleys and all of that kind of stuff. Big things to cover off, I guess, as part of this. Before we get into it, we saw not much in the way of things changing. Like so there was no real significant stuff. Usually on a pay-per-view or a PLE of this nature, we get pissy because it's like, well, the titles didn't change. There's nothing has happened at all. I don't know if you noticed it until I said it, but nothing really changed, right?
No, it was... Yeah, there was no title changes or anything like that. There was a couple of weird decisions made during it. I think the biggest thing for me with this show is they massively cocked up the pacing of the show.
Yes.
By placing Punk and Drew right at the start.
You can't tell me that view at the end with Punk with his hands like this doesn't close the show. I don't believe you at all. That was the best.
Oh, absolutely right. And if you have a look at, if you watched Raw today, the package that they showed for Bad Blood, you know how every week they have a package of, here's the pay-per-view that you missed, you should probably go and watch it.
Yeah.
Even that package finished with Hell in a Cell.
Because it should have been the finish. There was no bigger moment. Now, my question to you is, was that Daddy Dwayne?
Oh, was that absolutely that. And I think that's the way that they booked that show gave away that Dwayne was happening, in my opinion. Right? I think if you had booked that to be mid-show, the Bloodline match, if you had booked that to be mid-show and had Dwayne turn up, that would have actually been a surprise.
Is there any reason you couldn't have it have been the opener, right? Mm-hmm. And then have one of the backstage reporters running, hey, Dwayne, The Rock Johnson, Moana, Maui, can we get some words? And he's just like, fuck off, and just leaves.
Okay, so this is what I would have booked it. I would have actually had the Damian Priest match open the show because I feel like the biggest losers out of the entire pay-per-view, PLE, was the Priest match and the Rhea and Liv match.
Yeah.
They were the big...
I think anything following, so Nia Jax Bailey following the Punk Drew match.
In saying that, I've been thinking about this. Where would you have put that on the show and had it work?
Yeah.
I don't think there was anywhere that you could have put that match on the show and had it work.
Unless you put Punk and Drew in the main and you have it just before the main.
Potentially. It still would have been a drop-off, though, because that match had its issues.
It sure did, Billy. It sure did.
But look, going back to CM Punk versus Drew, this match was... And I think I messaged you and Ryan straight afterwards. This is my favourite Hell in a Cell match now.
Yeah.
It's not
I find it hard to disagree with you. I really do.
And look, Hell in a Cell has been around for a long time. I think it was 20 years, maybe 25 years or whatever since the first one to the day.
Mm-hmm. No, it's close because wasn't it 96?
Might have been. Yeah, so what's that? Yeah, it's a long time.
Close enough.
Anyway, there's been some great Hell in a Cell matches, but this one here was the first time in a long time that it felt like it was the end of a feud. But I just think it was the most intense one we've seen, and I think both Punk and Drew came out of this looking stronger. They both feel like massive stars. I actually, if you had asked me a week ago who I think needs to win this, I would have actually said I think Drew needs to win it, not Punk.
Yeah.
But after seeing the ending of this, I think it was the right ending.
Yeah.
I think Drew isn't hurt by this match at all because he came out of this looking so strong. They did all of the right spots to have him still look amazing. I mean, shit, they gave him the Stone Cold Steve Austin spot with Bret Hart, right?
Yeah. Look, the thing is that I think everyone at the moment is still coded in this CM Punk is a bad guy. In this story, he was not. Even though he's a fuckhead, he's not the bad guy. Yeah. And the reality is that if you had a heel win the end of the feud, it just makes Punk look like shit too.
Yep.
Now, Drew loses nothing because Punk had to be almost stretched out.
Yep.
He looked amazing the entire match. The Claymores have never been crisper. Never.
That Claymore where he landed tailbone first into the stairs.
Near the end was far. Yeah, no.
And saying that, there was so many moments where I was, because I mean, I've said this on the show plenty of times before, is I am not a deathmatch guy.
No.
Right? But there were so many times during that match where I was just like almost watching like with my hands over my eyes, like, my God, this is.
No, look, it was the right amount of brutal for the feud. It was the right amount of build. Like it all went into it perfectly.
And look, I've said this before about
too.
blood as well, right? Blood is a great mechanism when it's used sparingly and used in the right place. This match was the right place.
Oh, absolutely. Well, you couldn't have had it on any other match on the card at all. This was exactly where it needed to be. And despite the fact that we were even talking about this while it was happening, I'm like, wow, that's a good bit of color for Punk, but then it dried up pretty quickly. But then Drew just bled everywhere. And I was
16
like, okay,
stitches?
Yeah, we're back. We're right back where we need to be for this.
Oh, no, sorry, 16 staples, I think it was.
Yeah. And look, that's good. And as we saw on Raw as well, following this, Punk come out and said, hey, I haven't lost my smile, but I can barely stand, so I'm going to take some time to have a bit of a R&R.
Perfect way to end a feud, right? As I did say I thought Drew needed to disappear for a while. I think both of them disappearing for a while was good, right?
Honestly, if Punk is the only one to disappear, it keeps Drew looking awesome. Even if they never interact again, Drew came back first.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with that.
I think Drew has to at least take a couple of weeks off for it to sell the fact that it was intense. You know, he went through hell with Punk, blah, 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 blah. But no problem with Drew being the first one to come back.
I think that we now are in a situation where we can really slowly but steadily do a 5 to 6 month build to WrestleMania for Seth and Punk.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I think that's exactly where we need to be. This is where we've always needed to lead towards. And like I said, no fault at all for this. And this is like top stars.
The other brilliant part of booking in this is Punk gets to avoid going to Saudi Arabia and have it make sense.
Yeah, and also he doesn't have to cop a spear from Goldberg, which we'll get to later.
Well, that was the other thing I was going to say, that, and it wasn't until I saw somebody else tweet this, and I can't remember who it was, but the hilarity in the fact that CM Punk pulled off a sharpshooter in this right in front of Bill Goldberg.
In front of Bill Goldberg. I love that Gunther has somehow insulted both sides of that story now. That's very good.
Oh, Gunther's amazing.
Very good. But yeah, okay, so as far as the rest of the thing went, we kind of touched on Nia Jax and Bayley. It wasn't great. Like
I don't have anything to say about it.
I don't either. It was not good. Yeah. We've seen a lot of positive movement with Bayley.
There was nothing original in this story either, with what's happening with Tiffy, with cashing in on the friend and the teasing of that. It's interesting, but it does feel very mid-card.
Yeah. Yeah, look, there's nothing else to say about it. It just wasn't. It's not even on our notes, and that's fine. Big notes, though. Jimmy Uso. Finally, Jimmy Uso comes back, and couldn't have happened at a better time. And not just the fact that he came back in the main event, but he was also the shot caller for a lot of this, which I really liked as well. So near the end of the main event, which we're jumping around a bit, who cares? We're going for the better stories first. You know, the main event's happening. We're seeing a good back and forth. Obviously, the entire bloodline gets involved.
I will say this about the match. I genuinely think the first 20 minutes of this match was boring as shit.
Very forgettable.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I think we're in that zone when it comes to this particular set of people.
Yep.
Just in general. So, obviously, we eventually get G.O.D. interfere in the main, which then obviously prompts a need for someone else. So that someone else ended up being Jimmy Uso. Comes out. Awesome, perfectly set up, super kicks everything, leading to Roman hitting the spear and getting the win. Now, I will say before I go ahead, I am mad still. I am super mad. I am super mad about the fact that we got the bloodline entering first, and then we got not Roman Reigns entering next, but we got the WWE champion coming out next. Now,
and they missed out on a storyline reason to do the traditional way of having the champ come out last too.
Because Roman would have sat there being like, hey, that's my spot. That's where I'm supposed to come out. But he wasn't because he's not a champ. But they fucking... I hate it. I hate it. If you're the champion of the company, you should be out last.
Well, the thing is, right, they've had the storyline for going into this being that there is tension still between Cody and Roman, which there should be.
Yeah.
And they could have built so much more by having Roman standing in the ring waiting for Cody and having Cody come out as the champ, give him the big band entrance and have him standing on the ring posts as he enters, holding his title up and
staring down at Roman.
And Roman looking, going, that's mine.
Yep. And like that would have fed to later on as well. Would have made way more sense later on. But we didn't get that. And it's purely because Roman's getting the bigger reaction already. But yeah, it was big. They even tried to mention it, but it ruined already. There was a point in the match where they were like, oh, look, it's the first time we've seen him in like 4 years walk to the ring without a championship around his waist. And I'm like, okay, I understand you're trying to do, but you could have avoided all of that.
Or you could have used that as an emphasis for what?
Yeah, on the other way around. Yeah. So disappointing. Roman gets the win as well. So it is a full Cena wins lol moment where Roman not only gets the good entrance, he wins the match. Cody's all fucky. He sacrificed himself, making him lesser already because he took himself out of the finish completely. So he's a non-factor at this point. He took out Jacob Fatu, but who cares? They're both just laying on the ground.
Yeah.
Leading to Jimmy Uso, who suddenly now feels more established because Jimmy's in the main at the end of the match. Roman's in the main at the end of the match. Solo's in the main at the end of the match. The champion of the company is on the ground outside.
I think the biggest win that came out of this, though, was from a storyline beat, right? Is Roman hasn't changed.
No.
And they were showing Roman has not changed. He hasn't changed his character at all. At the end, after that match, he was like, that's not my problem.
Yeah. And then Jimmy had to tell him.
Cody's getting beat down, blah, 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 blah. The only change was, and it wasn't, I will save Cody, I care about Cody. It was, okay, me and you, Jimmy, we're on the same
I'll listen
now.
to you.
We're on the same level now. You're talking to me. You're telling me we should do this. Okay, we're boys. Let's go.
Yeah.
And that was literally in its first character change we've actually seen out of Roman. And I love the fact that it's a subtle character change, not a big one.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Roman should change as a character.
No, and look, there were a few moments here and there in the match too where he started to kind of feel like Shield Roman. You know, there were bits like where they were arguing about who starts the match. He's like, okay, like that. I was like, okay, so there's like a little bit there, but it's still very subtle. And I could talk about this match for ages as well. It wasn't awesome. Not until sort of we get in that interference section there. It was kind of by the numbers. And a lot of the show was. Now, I am noticing a lot of stuff that we're missing with the change. We'll get to the 2-hour change soon, but there's a lot of stuff we're missing through that change that I think was missing from the show. Like, we got no Wired 6. We got... There was no LA Knight stuff, no US Championship stuff, Intercontinental Championship. Like, there's a lot missing in these 5 match cards. And I think that when we had the end of the show happen, where the final boss returned and did a weird, like, 3, 1, 2, 3. I think that's like, hey, I beat you once, I'm going to kill you. I think that's what it is. I think it's him talking to Cody. I just feel like it's important to do, but it felt really forced and really weird.
Yeah. Look,
why did he not come to the ring? Why did he not even come close to the ring? Why did he just walk out? Like, we're standing there, we're like, okay, Rock's come out. Okay. I was sitting here with Lara, like, you know, my child. She's like, she's not even a teenager yet. And she's like, okay, Rock's here. Are you going to come? Are you going to, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Are you going to come to the ring? No. Oh, you're just going to stand there.
Yeah.
Okay. What does that even mean? You know, and it was like that was like almost exactly what was running through my head the first time I saw it too.
And do you think we're going to see Rocky this side of Crown Jewel? I don't think we are. I don't think we see him again until after Crown Jewel, where they've got to start building to Survivor Series.
Well, we might not see him until day one. That's a possibility.
I think he's going to have to be somewhat involved before War Games.
So do I. But they showed a 1 second shot of the new bloodline in the Rock's entrance, and they showed nothing else. Why could not the new bloodline have been standing between everything? Like, because they weren't. They were leaving through the crowd. Why couldn't they have been halfway up the ramp?
This is where I think this new way of booking angles is super interesting, right? There's very intentional things that are being done off camera now that was never a thing we would have seen under Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
So there's fan footage of Solo and Jacob Fatu up in the stands with the GOD, and what is it? Solo says to Jacob, "This is all part of the plan."
Yeah.
Right? If you think that was accidental, that was said in front of fans, you're a fool, because they now are playing into the fact that fans have their phones and they will capture something, and if they think it's cool, it's going to go on social media and become part of the story. They're clued into this, and that subtle little line was instantly picked up by social media as well, and picked up by all the wrestling news outlets, because it's a bit of a tease as to, okay, Rocky's back, it's all part of the plan, we still have pieces to put together, and that'll happen later on.
And look, that is a perfect segue into Kevin Owens has had enough of Cody's shit. Exactly the same thing. It happened after the show. Everyone was on their way out of the building, and we got a couple of fan cam footage gimmicks where it was showing KO and Cody talking near the entranceway, and there was a bit of a back and forth there. And then as Cody went to pick up his belt, which he'd dropped on the ground, KO just fucking right-handed him and then beat the fuck out of him. But it was not filmed as far as I've seen yet. There's been nothing shown for it. We might get, check out this exclusive GTV style footage on SmackDown, but as far as we know,
I think they're only going to use, I can guarantee they're only going to use social media video footage, and that's a perfect way of doing it. And I think that is a genius piece of business.
And look, there's plenty of justification for it too. He is completely justified in this too, Kevin Owens, like the way that he's moving forward with this.
Absolutely.
There was a subtle Sami Zayn talking to Cody moment, hey, you want to talk about it? Like people who have been betrayed by Kevin Owens' deal. But I don't actually know if Kevin Owens is the bad guy in this.
No. And this is also another thing that's the genius part of the booking that's been happening lately. And we'll go back to Drew as well, right? This is the same thing as Drew. Drew's a justified heel. Everything he has ever said throughout this entire storyline with Punk has been justified and accurate in his own mind.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with Kevin Owens right now. Him turning against Cody is absolutely justified in his own mind. And because this is what humans are like.
Yeah. Look,
we don't need this hokey storyline telling that we used to do in pro wrestling.
No. And look, the thing is that he kind of deserves it, He kind of does. Kevin Owens has had championship opportunity after championship opportunity taken away from him. He's been beat down by the bloodline. He's been treated like shit. He got to a point where he's like, you know what? No, I'm going to trust you, Cody.
And the other one that I think needs to say something to Cody is Seth.
Yeah.
Seth should have been on the mic today when he came out. Should have been saying, "What the hell, Cody? Did you see the state of me after WrestleMania?
After all we went through to get you that belt, I couldn't even walk. I had to take time off. I literally broke my body for you. And what you do? This is what you do?"
Yeah. So he's another one that I think will have a justified heel turn against Cody at some stage.
Absolutely. So I think this is an absolutely amazing bit of business. And we are going to be moving forward, I think, into a pretty exciting time. And I wouldn't even be mad if KO took it off him.
Yep.
So, that's just my thoughts.
I'd love to see KO get a good title run at some stage.
I kind of feel like he's going to be fed. I feel like everyone's going to be fed until they decide that Cody's had enough. But, yeah, there's something special about...
Well, look, there's a lot of rumors at the moment going around that... there could be a Mount Rushmore reunion.
Yeah, okay.
So they're going to have to keep that man happy.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. There's a part of me that just wants to see the heel turn for no reason other than the fact that he's really boring right now. The show is less interesting. I don't care about his feuds at all.
Yeah. KO's always better as a heel. It's funny because I actually went back and rewatched KO versus Stone Cold Steve Austin about a week ago.
Yeah, such a good thing.
Oh, my son has moved back to Australia. He's living with us, and he didn't watch it. So I was like, "Oh, son, you have to watch this match. It was amazing." Yeah. And I was actually watching KO during it, and I was just like, "God, I miss you as an asshole."
Yeah, no, I do too. 1,000,000%.
Yeah.
No, like, give me any day of the week. Give me KO as a bad guy. Give me Cody as a bad guy. Like, I just want to. Something needs to change in that main event scene right now.
I tell you what, though, Triple H, keep these layered characters arcs happening because this is so interesting now. It's having people being justified in their decision making.
And what about Randy? What's Randy going to do?
He's another one, right?
Like, what's he going to do when he's like, hey, my two kind of friends are fighting now?
Yeah.
Like, what's going to happen from there? Do we legitimize KO and make him serious? Or do we make him comical and have him job out? Like,
well, the thing is, we've also seen Randy looking at that belt a lot over the last few months.
Yes, absolutely.
Literally since he first returned, right?
Yeah.
So is he going to turn as well and we still keep RKO as a thing?
Yep, I'm happy for that because I quite like it.
Yeah, I quite like Randy as a heel.
Yep, no, I do too.
I also like sarcastic dad face Randy as well.
Oh yeah. Like, hey, I've put on a few pounds, Randy. I love that too.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing. Let's do a seggy. There's a little bit of a seggy here. Now, did you love Rhea Ripley versus Liv Morgan?
No. Did not love that. I am over the storyline, and what sucks is it looks like it's going to continue. I thought the match was a very average match. I thought the end of the match was an absolute botch fest, and it's since come out that it was an absolute cock up. The ref apparently made a call to ring the bell because it was obvious that he saw what was happening.
Yeah.
And then there was the whole thing with the pin that didn't make any sense and didn't need to be there, blah, 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 blah.
I don't know why you had to do that after that point. Like, I know you're probably told to when you go out there, hey, important story beats.
Yeah.
You know, make sure you get the pin. You know,
I don't know if I'm the only one here, but I just think Rhea versus Liv has worn out now. It's should be done and dusted by now. I think, look, Saudi Arabia, let's finish it.
Look, there is a chance that Demdog is not going to go after Liv now. There's a chance that she's like, oi, nah, fuck you, dog, to Raquel Rodriguez, and we get the push away from that belt. That could be sort of the vibe we're going for.
But I get the vibe that they've brought Raquel in to be that buffer between her and Liv, because Liv
for another match, for the rubber match.
Liv cannot out muscle Rhea.
No.
Never has been able to. She has to be a smart heel against Rhea, right? But what you're able to have with Raquel and Rhea is muscle versus muscle.
Well, you say that, but man, I don't want to sound bad here, but Raquel doesn't necessarily, after seeing how much Rhea Ripley has done and how far Rhea Ripley has come, I don't know if Raquel's on the same level as Rhea Ripley.
Look, here we go. This is some news that we haven't talked about on the show yet. There's only one person in WWE right now who I think is a competitor to Rhea Ripley.
Well, she's still walking here, to be fair. She's still, we saw the video.
She's still walking to WWE.
Yeah.
But Delta is going to be probably the only person that I'd be like, yes, this match is
That's a fight.
That's a fight.
Fuck. Yeah.
Right?
And, both coming from the same place, like, they're going to know each other's shit so well because they've both been trained by the same person.
That match will be a riot.
It will be a riot. It will be a riot. It will be good. Very good. I've been hanging out with people at work. Too many dad jokes. I can't do anymore. I'm so sorry. I can't do it. But yeah, I think that, I don't know, there's something about it that Liv has now been outsmarted in almost every way. So Rhea kicked out of the Oblivion. Rhea also kicked out of the Home Wrecker, her new signature, maybe finisher deal. She's got no tools in the bag.
No.
And the problem is that now if they get to a singles match, I don't believe, unless there is some fuckery, I don't believe that either of those moves can pin her now. Because I believe that she can escape them both.
It almost needs to be, the only thing that ends this needs to be like an Iron Man or Iron Woman or something where you've got everybody banned from ringside.
Yeah.
If Liv cheats, the belt goes to like so many rules in place where it has to be one-on-one.
But then you might also end up in a Fiend situation because once Rhea Ripley wins the belt back, I don't want to say the words I'm thinking. Because the only thing that I think would be even close to competition would be a woo happening after the match.
Oh,
am I wrong?
You're absolutely not wrong. And look, that'll probably happen at somewhere like the Rumble or Mania or something.
The only person on the radar right now who can seriously contend is Charlotte Flair.
Yep.
And the only way that you get the belt off of Rhea Ripley once she wins it back is probably Charlotte Flair.
Yep. And saying that, if you book it right, you might be able to make Charlotte be a good heel. You need to bring her back as a heel, blah, 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 blah. And then you could have essentially almost a year where you're able to start bringing up these powerhouses that we're starting to get in NXT.
Yeah. Yeah. We can head to, Delta. We can head to some of the NXT girls.
Some of the TNA girls.
Some of the, like Jordan Grace come up, have a match. Let's do it.
Absolutely.
Let's do it. But at the end of the day, none of this happens until we have the rubber match with Liv.
Yeah.
Which sucks because I'm done. I'm so done. Like,
well, didn't Rhea take the title off?
Originally,
she took the title off Charlotte.
Yes. Yeah. So that would make the most sense.
And so going full circle, that does work.
Yeah. Yeah. But at the same time, like I said, like I don't want to say it. I don't like it. I'm not a fan of that at all. But it makes the most logical sense. And if I was booking, that's what I would be booking.
Yeah.
Speaking of booking, as much as I do want to say the last thing, I don't want to say the next thing either.
Well, look, let's talk about title bouts.
Okay, we can start there. That belt is fucking enormous.
That belt. I think I tweeted it straight afterwards. Why didn't they just go all in? If they wanted to go bling, put a fucking spinner on the thing.
Yeah.
It's the only thing that's missing from that hideous belt.
It is as big as Triple H's old heavyweight championship, the big round belt. It is a big sucker. I don't hate it.
Look, I do. I think it's a hideous belt. I think it's disgusting.
It looks
gaudy.
nothing. It is pretty much the AEW championship. Come on now.
Oh, it's got a few less diamonds in there. Look, I've got the one up there. It's a lot of money to invest in a belt that we're only going to see once a year.
But I'm sure they didn't pay a single cent of it.
No. And did you see Trips as he was making the announcement? It felt
like so sad.
It looked like I'm about to do a sponsored plug that I don't want to do.
Yeah, here's me being Triple H. The following video is brought to you by Squarespace. That's 1,000,000% what it was. And
absolutely. It was
NordVPN.
Yeah. It was absolutely paying the bills. Talking about paying the bills, if you go to our link in the link in the bio, you can go to www.shop.com and buy yourself some belts. Maybe even
is that on there yet? Oh, man, I have to know if that's on. Oh, surely it's not on there. Don't buy that one. What about the Roman Reigns one? That's completely gone forever. That's
gone forever.
So quickly. But go to www.shop.com. Use our link in the description. Get yourself some sweet wrestling swag. Do we still say swag? I don't know. Probably something more to do with Riz.
Some loot.
Something like that. Some loot for your clothing. You should do that. Some loot for your booty. Yeah, you know what? Fuck it. That's close enough. Go to www.shop.com, use our link in the description, and get yourself some merchandise. Do it.
Yeah. Back to this belt, though. Interesting that it is going to be champion versus champion.
I don't hate this idea.
It's not a new concept, right? They used to do this in the SmackDown versus Raw era. I think they used to do it as a part of, was it the Night of Champions, or did they do it as a part of?
They did it for Night of Champions, and they did it for later on for bragging rights. Yeah. But essentially, in those instances, they were used typically as devices to merge the belts. Yeah. When people got sick of the belts being separate, they would do one of those shows to bring them together. Yeah. But this is not that. My question is, say Cody v. Gunther happens, say Cody wins. Cody gets the belt, but then drops the championship. Does he keep the crown jewel belt?
Well, this is the thing, and I think this is the part which I think is going to make the Saudi show, which they have done a really good job of making the Saudi shows feel important and part of canon. I think this is making the Saudi shows non-canon again, because there's no way that you have the world champion turn up with both belts the next day. Yeah. Because it lessens the World Heavyweight Championship or the Undisputed Championship.
Yeah.
So it is going to be a case where at the end of the show, they hold up both belts, and then the next night on Raw, they turn up with one again.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, it is what it is. It's kind of much better than the idea that we're definitely going to get Gunther versus Bill Goldberg at Crown Jewel. Probably.
But this is the thing. You're not going to get that at Crown Jewel because he's already facing Cody.
Unless it's a thing earlier in the night, you know, like a little thing.
I'm hoping if there was a show to have it at, it would be a Saudi show. I wouldn't
That's the
mind
best case scenario.
I wouldn't
want
mind
it
it
either.
happening at a Saudi show. I don't want it anywhere else. Like, I don't want this happening at day one. I don't want this happening at any of the
Anywhere it's
main-
serious.
Yeah. I don't want this happening at Royal Rumble.
No. But he's got a very I'm doing it for Gage face about him.
Yeah.
So, which is always terrifying.
He has said quite publicly that he wants to have a final match and have it be a retirement match.
Yeah.
Look, let's just get it out of the way.
Yeah.
Get it done.
Get Brett out of retirement, get Brett in there with Goldberg.
If there was going to be a final match, the only competitor I could see for Brock, which would make Brock look not Brock, Goldberg look strong and be legitimately finished, is going to be Gunther.
Yeah. Or Brock.
Once again, I don't think we see Brock for a few years.
Oh, I think we're closer than you think.
I genuinely, this side of the court case, I don't think we're going to see it.
I think, well, yeah. I mean, they're talking about it a lot during their documentaries. Be interesting to see where it goes from here. Let's just leave it at that for now so we don't become liable ourselves at any point.
No.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know if I want to see it.
To finish things off for the week, this is the first time in almost 12 years, I think it is, that we have seen a 2-hour Monday Night Raw.
Yeah.
How did you feel about it?
It's too short.
You feel like it's too short. So
do.
I had a completely different take on it. I felt like it was the first time I've seen an episode of Raw where it felt like there was no time wasted.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. I like that.
Yeah, it felt like it was constantly moving, and it just kept this pace of you cannot walk away from the TV because you might miss something, and it's because they had to squeeze as much into 2 hours as they could, right? It's what Raw used to feel like to me back in the Attitude Era, which was there was always something happening.
Yeah, and I love that side of it. I really love that side of it. What I don't love is like women's tag match getting like 2 minutes.
Exactly, and that's the side of it that does suck. It's going to be a fucking tough situation until January, trying to book and keep everybody's storylines happening, keeping everybody on the roster busy, and trying to squeeze that into 2 hours. What I wouldn't mind picking is what we start seeing over the next few months is SmackDown and Raw's split, I think, has begun to become blurred again. I think we'll start seeing people cross over so they can move storylines over to the other show and all that, and maybe even some of the mid-carders moving to NXT just to keep them busy. Because NXT's been fucking brilliant the last couple of weeks too, so I wouldn't have a problem with some mid-carders being over there.
Yeah, no, look, my issue obviously is that, we were crazy about the Wyatt Six. And this week they had a video glitch over the Miz's backstage promo. And that was it. And this time, 6 weeks ago, it was all we could talk about.
Yeah. And so that, I don't think they knew that they were going to end up with 2 hour Raws coming into this. I think USA has definitely put them in a tough spot.
I think they've done it on purpose because they're pissy about it.
Yep.
They're pissy that they're moving to Netflix and that this big deal that they were potentially about to have is now like a temporary kind of handshake until they leave.
I mean, look, why would you set up Netflix to why would
ultimately succeed completely?
Yeah. I mean, the only thing is, and you don't want to fuck the product either because you've still got SmackDown.
Yeah.
So I think it's this tough position where they're like, look, we don't want to set up Netflix and have Netflix having a better product than us.
But they don't need to fuck it either. That's where we're at right now, is that's what's happening. So I'll be interested to see how it goes from here, because if it continues to go the way that I see it, as opposed to the way that you see it, we're going to be in for a pretty rough few months.
Yeah. Well, look, how many months we've got? October, November, December. So we've got 3 months of 2 hour shows.
Which means that's a lot of time for people to get cold and a lot of time to build them back up again.
Yeah.
So
Look, I think it doesn't matter what sort of situation it's going to be, and that first episode on Netflix is going to be a banger. I wouldn't mind picking that instantly straight to 3 hours. It's going to be an overbooked, stacked card, and that is where you pre-announce Rocky is going to be on the show. Stone Cold Steve Austin's going to be there.
yeah.
You just overbook the fuck out of it.
Something that's not on our list at all, which I really want to just quickly gloss over, is did you see the best thing ever that CM Punk's ever done?
Which one's
with
this?
The referee thing, where he's backstage with Triple H.
Yes.
He's got the little bike shorts on and the cowboy hat, and he's like, "Hey, is this okay?"
Yeah.
And Sean come out and he's like, "No, it's terrible. That's my hat." Oh
yeah. I retweeted it with that meme of the kid doing the the look down.
Yeah,
because
beautiful.
There was definitely a pair of socks somewhere they shouldn't be.
That's all natty, bro. But hey, on the dick jokes, that is another episode done and dusted.
Absolutely.
I feel like we're in a good spot. I feel like we could be in a better spot, but only time will tell. I think Bad Blood, for me, gets I struggle to give it any more than a 7.
I was thinking exactly the same thing. 7 Vegemite sandwiches.
Yep, that's it. So, and maybe even a slice of light processed cheese on top, just because if you haven't tried that and you're in Australia, you'd try that. Get yourself into that. That's it for us, though. Thank you very much.
We've got a good few months coming up. Make sure you, if you haven't subscribed already, do that, because we in the build up to WrestleMania now. It doesn't matter what they say. Once upon a time, it was a Royal Rumble. That's gone.
Yeah.
I firmly believe that Survivor Series is the road to WrestleMania now. But we're also in the build-up to Grand Slam Australia for AEW. We've got lots planned. We're planning on working very closely with AEW in the build-up to that as well. So make sure you're subscribed for all of that content that's going to be hitting the airwaves or hitting your downloads.
This was a very WWE-centric show, but sometimes that's okay. I don't know what MJF did, hit someone with some brass knuckles or some shit. I don't know, and it's okay. We'll cover that in another episode. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening and watching and listening. And as always, we'll see you down under the ring.